You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange, and it's great to have you with us this week, as always, because we're about to talk about building and growing and monetizing your online platform, taking your passion, turning it into a platform, and helping you earn a paycheck from it. This is something that we have a lot of fun talking about each and every week here on the podcast. If you're listening to us for the first time, welcome aboard. We're so glad to have you with us. I'll mention our website, platformlaunchers.com. You can find a whole bunch of things there. I've got courses that will teach you all sorts of details about building an online platform. We also have our Members Club membership that you could take a test drive for a couple weeks. And you'll find that at platformlaunchers.com. And we also have a free 21-day platform development planning guide that'll help you over the course of 3 weeks map out your online platform and come up with something that might be a good fit for your passions and the things that you like to talk about, and help you build an online business that can be a source of joy, a source of passive income, a source of helping other people. So again, all at the website, platformlaunchers.com. I hope you check it out. But this week, what we're talking about is a phrase. I like to use this phrase. Probably somebody else somewhere uses this too, but I can't think of anyone else that specifically uses this. But I always talk about this idea of a people pipeline. And what I mean by that is this. When you start building an online business or an online platform, whatever phrase you want to use, one of the big concerns that you have in the back of your mind is, how do I actually connect with people? In fact, that's one of the most common questions that I get. People want to know, how can I help people discover what I'm building online? How do people actually find this? If I'm going to create this, how do people actually know that it's been created? Because I think we could admit it's one thing to build an online platform, but it's another thing altogether to build an audience who regularly utilize what we've built. And this is a question that you will find yourself asking, whether you're starting out in online platform development, if this is new for you, but you'll also be asking this question long after you've been involved in building your online business or your online platform. You might be doing it for years, and you'll still find yourself asking that question. How can you connect with additional people? I think we're always wondering that. How can we reach more people than we've reached previously? It's a worthwhile question to ask, and it's something that I think we should all be thinking about if we're actually trying to serve people with our content. Now, during the early days of creating my website and writing blog content and recording my podcasts, at first, like everybody, I didn't have much of an audience. And so the way I actually started out, as far as just kind of building that audience initially, I actually began by making sure that people I knew personally, that they knew about what I was creating. So I would share about my content in person. When I was either speaking at different events or just having conversation with people, I would share about it in person. In fact, I actually just had the opportunity to share about my podcasts with somebody in person earlier today. And so I still do that. I still take the opportunity to share in person, but I'd also share via my personal social media. I would just let people know, hey, this is a form of content that I'm creating. It's available. I hope you'll make use of it, that sort of thing. And I didn't try and be spammy. I wasn't trying to spam people. I also didn't talk about it 24/7. I would just mention it from time to time, and I would let people know that if they found it useful, I just wanted to invite them to make use of it. Well, to my delight, my friends and my family enjoyed what I was creating. So that helped me get this pipeline, this people pipeline, actually initiated. And they started spreading word to others. So that was an added benefit. They themselves started listening or reading, and then they or watching, because some of it was video content, and then they started spreading word to other people. I wasn't paying for advertising. I did not have a major social media campaign, nothing like that. In the early days, all I did was I just spread word to people that I had genuine relationships with, and then they helped me expand my reach through word of mouth. And I actually think word of mouth is one of the most powerful forms of marketing. It's sometimes more powerful than some of the most expensive forms of marketing. By the way, we just finished up a presidential campaign, and I won't go into the details of which candidate I'm speaking about or anything like that, but I've heard some kind of postmortems, some conversations that candidates have been having since the election is finished. And one of the candidates made a comment that really stuck in my head. The particular candidate indicated that their favorite form of media that they were able to get during the election cycle was free media, media that they didn't have to pay for, media that kind of came to them. And I thought, boy, with those of us creating online platform content, there's a lesson for us in that, thinking about that free media. How can we get some attention on what we're building? Is there a way we could build some word of mouth or just kind of build some momentum that way? But that was initially what I focused on. I let people that I knew personally, I let them know about it, and then they helped me spread the word. Now, over time, so it's been a decade here that I've been very consistent in building online content. Over time, my audience has grown, and your audience will grow too as you're consistent. You're doing the different things you need to be doing. But over time, as my audience has been growing, I've been using some other tools as well to help create that people pipeline. It's my goal to make sure that people are being regularly introduced to what I'm doing. And so there's different ways that I'm doing this, and I'm going to outline them. I actually kind of have like a bullet point list that I'm going to walk us through here. So I'm going to sound a little encyclopedic as I share these things, but I hope there'll be something on this list that you find useful. And by all means, follow up with me if you're listening to this podcast here. Send me an email, john@platformlaunchers.com, if you have a question about any one of these things. But I think it's fair to say that driving traffic to your online platform involves a combination of strategies. And again, that could include organic methods like what I talked about, building that word of mouth. It could possibly also include a little bit of paid advertising if you want to go down that route, although I have to admit I don't do much of that. I have tried that from time to time, but I really don't do much of that. It should also probably involve some social engagement and some collaboration. So you're going to see some of those themes in my bullet pointed list here. But here's the breakdown of what I think will work for most of us if we're trying to build that people pipeline. And there's a couple things on this list here. Most of the things I'm about to share with you are things that I directly do. There's a couple things that I don't do much of, so I'll note them, but I also want to acknowledge that they can be useful. So that's why I include them in this list. So one of the first things that I do that I find helpful as I'm trying to build this pipeline of people and connect with people is I make sure that I have optimized my platform, or platforms, I should say at this point, because I'm running several, but I optimize them for search engines. So typically people use the phrase SEO, search engine optimization. It's not as complicated as people tend to think it is, but here's how you do this. Here's how you optimize. This is just a general overview of how to optimize your content for search engines, because you want to make it so that your content is discoverable from search engines, that they find it, that people find your content just by doing a search. So how do you do that? Well, you do some SEO, you do some search engine optimization. That typically starts with a little bit of keyword research. You could use tools like Google's Keyword Planner. You could use SEMrush. You could use different tools like that to find keywords that your audience is searching for. And then what you do after you've got those keywords, you use those in your title, you use those in the first paragraph, or the first sentence, I should say, of your blog posts, and you just keep creating quality content. So you're creating valuable, engaging, SEO-friendly content. You tailor it to your audience, and you make sure to release it on a regular schedule. I like to release blog posts weekly. I'll talk more about content marketing in a minute, but you just keep creating quality content, and you do it on a regular schedule. And then you do a little technical SEO. And what I mean by that is this. You're not just making sure that your blog posts are search engine optimization friendly, but you make sure that the website itself is friendly for search engines or for other things. So make sure it's like mobile friendly. Test it out on your phone. Make sure that the website loads fast, because search engines actually, if your site doesn't load fast, they test that and they won't recommend your site if it's a slow loading site. You also want to make sure that your site's easy to navigate. The easier your site is to navigate, the more people are going to use your site and the more they're going to find your content. One other thing related to SEO, and people forget this one frequently, so I want to mention it: build some backlinks. So the idea with backlinking is this: if your site is referenced on another site, so if another website has a link to your site, they put it on their site, that builds your online authority, and it helps search engines to rank you higher. So I begin when I'm thinking about building this people pipeline, I begin by just trying to optimize for search engines. I just want to make my website super friendly for search engines because the friendlier it is, the more user friendly it is, the more the search engines like it, the more they're going to recommend it, and then people are going to find my content that way. But I mentioned something about blogging, and I said in just a moment I'm going to get into content. And the second thing I want to say on my bullet pointed list here is this. When I'm trying to build that people pipeline, I leverage content marketing. In fact, most of my marketing is through creating content. If you just analyze either my platform launchers content or if you go over to BibleStudyHeadquarters.com, you can see that I'm doing this in both places. I'm leveraging content marketing. All right, what do I mean by that? Well, for me, it always starts with blog posts, and I'm publishing articles regularly that solve problems or answer questions for my target audience. And I make those posts really easy to share. I make it so other websites are eager to share it as well. One of the biggest ones that's sharing content from Bible Study Headquarters, if you actually go to Christianity.com, just go to the homepage of Christianity.com, test this out one of these days. You'll probably find anywhere from 3 to 5 articles that I've written right on the homepage of Christianity.com. And all they're doing is taking content from BibleStudyHeadquarters.com and posting it on Christianity.com. So I'm leveraging content marketing. And then when people check that out, they see in the footer, there's a backlink back to my website, and it's building my traffic. So that's one thing I'm doing, using blog posts to kind of build that online authority and connect with people by solving problems in those blog posts that are easily shareable. Then I'm creating video content. So again, content marketing, super easy way to connect with people. And my favorite way to do that is through YouTube. I sometimes post things on Facebook as well, but I mainly use YouTube. Now, there are other people using other platforms. There are a lot of people creating video content for Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. The truth is, I don't really use Instagram that much, and I don't use TikTok that much. I use what I like, and since I don't really use those sites, I don't really create content for those sites. I'm sure that if I did, it would be helpful, but I kind of like the way I'm building my pipeline without using them. But if you like them, I'd encourage you to use them by all means. Another thing that you could do when it comes to content marketing is you could create some infographics and some visuals. You just share some visually appealing content, maybe on social media or your website. And I've discovered, and I mentioned it a couple weeks ago on one of our previous episodes, that Canva.com makes it super, super easy to create those infographics and to create those visuals that are really easy to share. And I use them in my blogs. I use them on social media. I use them all over the place. I use them on YouTube. Super easy to create with Canva. And then one other piece of content marketing that I'll make mention of is the stuff that I like to give away for free. And one of the easiest things to give away for free would be things like ebooks or PDFs that can be used as lead magnets. You're basically offering downloadable resources in exchange for contact information. So people sign up for your newsletter because you've given them something valuable for free that could be digitally downloaded, and it's a free piece of content. So that's content marketing. I'm leveraging content marketing to build that people pipeline. I would say probably at this point, that is the most effective thing that I'm doing as far as connecting with people. As they see that content, most of the content that I create, I'm creating for free. And I just keep putting it out there, putting it out there, putting it out there. And the nice thing is once you create it once, it has the potential to keep working for you for a good long time. Third thing I'll mention, I'll just kind of mention this briefly, social media marketing. So when it comes to social media marketing, and I have to just kind of note something here. While I do use social media, I don't use it a ton. I often see others use it a lot more than I do, but I have to say it can be a very effective way to engage an audience. But when I use social media, I mainly use it to connect with people I already know. But there are a lot of people that are using their social media to post regularly with some promotional content, also some value-driven content. And when they do that, they respond to comments, they join conversations, they're using hashtags, they're collaborating, they're partnering with friends and influencers and brands and things like that in their niche. Super effective way if you're going to do that through social media marketing. I will confess to you, I don't use that a ton. A lot of people I know do use that, and some people have great effect in using it. For me, I have other things that I like to do. My podcasts, my blog, things like that. I like to create content that way. But something that I do use quite frequently is number 4 on my list, and that's email marketing. Email marketing is, I think, the most underrated form of marketing, and yet it is so, so effective. If you can encourage people to be part of your email list, you have the opportunity at any given moment to let them know about new products, new services, different things like that that you are now offering. All you have to do is you send an email. So, one of the things that I encourage people to do as they're trying to build that people pipeline is make sure that you build a subscriber list. Use free content, use lead magnets, use whatever you need to use to encourage people to sign up to be part of your email list, and then regularly email that list. I would say once a week at least. Keep that list warm. Some people email their list every day. I don't. To me, that's too much. But I do like using that subscriber list and building it up with lead magnets and then sending out regular newsletters. For platform launchers, I send that newsletter out on Wednesdays. For Bible Study Headquarters, I send that newsletter out on Tuesdays. And I find that to be a super helpful thing to do. Number 5 on my list is this, and this is extremely effective if you're trying to build a people pipeline, and that's collaborate and network. So just yesterday, I had the privilege to be a guest on another podcast. And that podcast, very much like we do here in Platform Launchers, after I record this podcast each week, we have a Q&A time with our members. And it's super fun. Well, I was invited to be part of a live podcast on another person's platform, and that allowed me to connect with their audience. And so we had some collaboration. So I served their audience yesterday, networked together with them. That also allows me to introduce the content that I'm creating to people that are part of that network. And it's a wonderful thing. You do some collaboration, you do some networking, it gets word out. Being a guest on a podcast is one of the most effective forms of marketing that exist, where you're serving an audience. They have the opportunity to hear about you. You share about your website. You give away something for free on your website. People stop by the website, sign up to be on your email list, get whatever that free resource is, and now you've added another person to your growing network of people. And that comes through initially now collaboration, networking with other people. Something else that I'll make mention of here, I'm kind of running through my list a little bit quickly. I'm going to have a few additional details, by the way, on platformlaunchers.com. If you want to see some of the things I'm talking about here, I'll put a bullet list with some bonus content up on the website, so be sure to check it out. And if you're not on my newsletter, sign up for it on the website, because I will send this out to our newsletter list. But something else that I find particularly helpful to do is to leverage analytics. Let me take a sip here. Excuse me for doing that. I leverage analytics. Now, what do I mean by leveraging analytics? So there are tools like Google Analytics, or I use Kajabi to build my website. And so Kajabi has some analytics built in. But these are things that track conversions and monitor traffic and tell you where people are coming from. And that allows you to start realizing, hey, I can start targeting my content toward where people are coming from. And when you start realizing that, you use those analytics, you read up on the analytics, you see where they're coming from, and you create content directly to serve where that pipeline of people is finding you. Two other things that I'll make mention of. One is a strategy and one's a philosophy. Engage in online communities. So if you're trying to find people, if you're trying to build a pipeline of people, you want to engage with people where they actually are. And people are involved in various online communities through forums, through social groups, through things where you get to answer questions. These are all different ways to engage with people. But if you want to actually build a group of people that are familiar with what you're doing, you have to engage with people where they are. So I would encourage you to just find different online communities. You could find them on Reddit, Quora, niche forums, all sorts of things, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, all sorts of things like that. And if you provide some insightful answers, you can link back to your platform and introduce people to your other content. But let me say one more thing before I wrap this up. Maintain a long-term strategy when you're talking about building this pipeline, because building consistent traffic, it takes time. But if you remain engaging, if you continue to help create helpful content, and if you continue to show up where people are and then operate from a heart that's eager to serve generously, I'm actually convinced that you're going to gradually build an audience, or like I've been saying, a people pipeline that continues to visit your platform and use your services and recommend your content to others. Now, in all of this, as I'm presenting this here, I never want to present anything that I teach or do as if it's a quick fix with instant results. But I can very confidently say, as someone who uses the approach that I just described here, plus a few extra things that I'll make mention of, like I said in that blog post, just stop over at platformlaunchers.com. By the time you hear this episode, this post will be up. I can confidently say that if you regularly make use of the suggestions that I just listed, you are very likely to see healthy results and stronger connections with people over time. The idea really is show up where people are and be eager to generously serve them and serve them well. And doing that over and over and over again consistently does result in building that pipeline of people that gets eyes on your content as you're trying to serve them. So I hope that some of that is useful for you. You can probably tell that over the course of this week, I've been getting over a cold a little bit here. So my apologies for that aspect of this week's podcast. I'm just grateful that I have a voice this week. I didn't have much of a voice a few days ago, but thankfully it came back. And so glad we're able to spend this time together. Like I said at the start of our episode, I just want to invite you to stop over at the website, platformlaunchers.com. Check out the stuff that we've got there. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast each week. It's always a delight to be able to spend this time together with you. And I hope you have an awesome week, and I look forward to seeing you again right here next time. Take care.